And there's nothing really that compares to it. It's just so much fun. It feels so good, feels powerful.
It was what I looked forward to all day.
Hey, but one day something just clicked, and I was like, I really want to see how it feels to be able to dunk.
And I remember the day when I got touched rim for the first time. It's like one of the best days of my life.
Because I saw all the Florida guys, Steven Selly, Isaiah, CJ. I saw them all having dunk sessions. I was like, this looks really fun.
I remember my one coach, one of the practices we had, he was like, "Oh wow, you can jump pretty good." I was like, "Oh really?" And that positive reinforcement kind of got me excited and like started trying to dunk.
I don't know why. I just love the feeling of like floating, right? Like when you just dunk as hard as you can, that feeling is like the best thing ever. The third aspect, which no other sport has, like combined with it, is how creative you can get with it. There's so many dunks that haven't been done, and I love going after them.
Again, the possibilities are endless. It just motivates me to keep going.
There's so much variety in what you can do.
It's the closest thing to feeling like a superhero, I guess.
I had a pretty rough first 2 years of high school, just not really fitting in with my school. And so dunking, like when I would go home, it was like the most, I don't know, it was the most stress relieving thing in my life. It was the most fun thing that I could do.
And I think it was like the one thing that I thought that I did that was kind of interesting.
As a shorter guy, there's like more of a thing in me where it's like, oh, I think that dunking is like a really cool concept.
The process of improving yourself and growth is really beautiful to see when you like put your head down and focus.
I find it interesting. A lot of people like they start with like the kind of physical explanation of like why they like dunking, which is actually
Yeah.
probably the best explanation in my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like if someone asked me that, I would go like immediately to existential. Like it's changed my life. It's a journey. Like, you know. Anyways, man.
I
But
mean, at the end of the day, it's the funnest thing in the world for me, right? There's nothing else that's this fun. It's the feeling aspect of it, right?
So yeah, I've gotten kicked out.
If you're dunking on a court, a lot of the time you will get told off.
They started to post something on the rim, say we can dunk and do not lower the rim, something like that.
Hey man, you can't dunk in here. And I was like, oh, like I actually didn't know that.
He was like, hey, you're not supposed to do that here. And I was like, what do you mean?
I've traveled like pretty far to go dunk with some friends or to go dunk with people or whatever it was, and then got kicked out.
We don't want you guys dunking on any of the 10-foot rims.
For some reason, it's pretty common. We've all seen those signs on rims or backboards that say, no dunking.
okay, that was the intro. And it brings us to the framework we're going to be using to address this issue. So I've laid it out here pretty clearly. We have situations, so kind of like what happened, what went down, maybe what the facility said, people's experiences, how they felt about it, and feelings, and some solutions we'll talk about. Let's dive in.
There are rules listed on the wall, and it said not one of them says no dunking.
We were booking this place for 2, 3 years beforehand, and it was no issue. Like we'd been doing it for so long, and then all of a sudden, it started to become an issue. Like there was some like politics behind it. Like there was new people that were working at the center.
I've been dunking there for 4 years, and this is actually the first time, like a month ago, was the very first time in my life that I've ever gotten a complaint from anybody for dunking at any gym.
I was just like, all right, I'm not trying to cause trouble, and I don't know why you're so angry at me. But I've been dunking at this gym for like 3 years.
At first is no one cares if I lowered the rim or not because no one ever did it before.
Like I've dunked with staff members in the facility. Like they've witnessed me doing it, never had anything said.
The thing is, like, it's just one person finds an issue with it, and then maybe they have some position of power, and then they just actually make it a problem. But
Yeah.
like another person might see that and not have an issue with it. They're just making things up like on the fly.
No, yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
like,
I was just doing a workout where, I was going up and just either touching the rim or slightly grabbing the rim, not even hanging on it. And a lady that worked at the front desk came over and told me I had to stop. And
Then nobody, and I told him about dunking, and he said like dunking is not a sport, and he's like basically called me an idiot and whatnot. And he was like, bro, you're playing on a kid's hoop. Like the guy who joined in literally told me, I hope you snap your ACL in half. And I didn't even know that people like that existed like in real life.
Yeah, we pretty much got all of our bookings cancelled and banned from this center from dunking there.
But eventually we got our own hoop, like our own adjustable rim that we can use for the club. And I was so excited. We weren't sure where we were going to store it. So that's when I had to kind of like hit up the athletic director and be like, hey, we have this hoop for our club. Where would you want us to put this? In asking them, they're like, we don't want you guys dunking on any of the 10-foot rims on campus.
One of their main reasons they wanted to not let us dunk there anymore was apparently there was like risk of damage to equipment, which like puts other people in danger, which is fair. But then at the same time, one, I don't think we'd ever damaged the rim. Like we never hung like shook the rim or anything like that. For one, and yeah, I don't think we've ever seen actual damage to the ring.
One thing I tend to tell people who get worried about me like breaking the rims, because they find out I'm a professional dunker, is I've never shattered a backboard in my entire career.
Sometimes maybe an employee will be like, yeah, that rim would cost like $10,000. And be like, if it broke, I would pay you $10,000 because I'm just so sure it's not going to.
Exactly.
I was talking to this one guy and he's like, yeah, but if you even if you break the padding on the backboard, it costs $700. And I was just like, dude, I can't win. Like, I'm I'm not. How did and also dunking?
You're not dunking on the padding of the backboard. What?
We're way beyond these 1960s and 70s days where the rims were very different. There's no breakaway rim, there's no springs. And
why would our club be approved if we can't participate in our club? The only thing I can't understand about that logic is like, the basketball team, one, they're like way taller than us. They're way bigger than us, way stronger than us. They have no issue with the basketball team dunking on any of those hoops, but we're not allowed to. And then they even said something about like, yeah, we don't want you guys dunking on those hoops either because it's going to promote dunking in the gym, and they don't want that. But what sucks is like that was the whole point of our club, was to promote dunking. So
Yeah.
What one you talked about is like precedence where like someone else mistreats the equipment and then they say it's your fault
Yeah.
because you're
Yep.
promoting this, now it's your fault, which I just think
Yep.
it's kind of true, but it's just bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
I can't
Facts.
control what
Yeah.
they're doing. Like, I'm
Exactly.
sorry, like it's not, that's I don't know. Like, yeah, there's so many things you compare that to.
Like the odds of me breaking a rim are like 1 in a trillion.
The probability is so painfully low, and it's like, where else am I going to go to do this thing that clearly matters to a lot of people, right?
He just said it was a safety issue, and I should have asked, but I was just kind of like so bewildered by it since I'd never heard it that I was just like, oh, I didn't know that. And
For most of the rims, they locked it, so you cannot lower it anymore. And if they see you dunking, they probably are just gonna come over and move the rim to the other side. Yeah.
Originally gonna place like a dunking ban because they thought like because of dunking it damages equipment, and that's really not the case.
Although I have had places just like not let me go in as well, just because they know I'm gonna dunk or whatever.
more so than anything, I was just kind of shocked and surprised and a little defeated, but I'll save my full defeated feelings for if it happens again, because then I'm really not going to know what to do.
I guess it's like, you hear all these stories about certain gyms that you can't drop weights or whatever. Olympic plates are made to be dropped.
Yeah.
That's why they are made out of the materials that they are. It's perfectly safe to do so. And maybe you've never seen that before, you haven't been exposed to that, you'd be like, what is that person doing? That's so irresponsible.
But I was definitely a little frustrated just because I was like, what? Like, since when is this a rule? If it was a rule, like I would have
Like, and at this point, I just tried like keeping my cool because I know that I'm someone who could lose my temper really easily. And I just left the gym because I was so angry at this time, and I didn't really want to cause a scene.
like, where am I supposed to go? Because this seems to be a common theme with a lot of places. So it's like, if you're not going to be able to dunk there and you don't have your own rim, like,
Yeah, I guess it's more of a problem for like Also, wetter climates because they just can't dunk outside.
think people who it simply is a jealousy thing. It's an envy thing that, someone who can't, puts up these signs and these stickers that say, no dunking allowed.
No, I've heard about the jealousy thing as well before, and it's kind of like kind of hurts me to even think about it, but like it does kind of make sense because they think you're like trying to show off and like do something cool.
Sometimes people will get annoyed that you're dunking because like they can't dunk on 10 feet. You know what I mean? I've seen that happen before too. And I think that is unfortunate that like that's happened.
It's,
'Cause, like
it's
I'm
like,
not trying to showboat when I'm dunking. I'm not
yeah.
there to like be like, oh look, I can do this and you can't. It's like I'm there to do the activity that I like to do because I'm passionate about the activity.
You don't look at a high jumper and be like, oh man, you're trying to high jump, man. He's trying to show off. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I was really surprised that they were not supportive in that aspect at all.
To go there and dunk, right? Because like people don't want you to dunk, and people don't want you to grab the rim or something like that. It's like it's part of the basketball. It's on the videos every day. It's on the television every day. But when you actually go there to dunk, they don't allow you to dunk. So it's really weird. It's like they don't say it, you can't dunk, but everything they're doing is they don't want you to dunk, right? They're saying this without speaking the words.
I feel bad for all those guys that like get kicked out. I'm sure that's like a really crappy feeling. Hopefully they have other places that they can dunk and stuff.
We can accept no hanging. I'll even accept no filming, no hogging. That's cool.
I really don't care if you shoot around on the hoops that I'm doing a dunk session on. I really don't care if you play a game as long as like there's mutual agreement that we'll share the hoop because it's public. I mean, it's a public space.
This kind of relates to what you were saying before, where they're like, no, it's against that policy. We're not going to do it. Same thing with our stadium. They kind of just said, nope, you're not dunking here anymore. Go somewhere else. One of the reasons they just don't even want to bother understanding is because when you think about it, people who are telling you this, I feel like they have less incentive to try and, impress and please you than like a private facility does. So we dunk at a private facility now.
Mhm.
So it's owned and run by the same guys who we're talking to every single week. The guys at the front desk are the guys who buy all the rings, the floors. So it's like a private business.
My goal, one thing I want to do, is build a basketball court like in the certain areas of my city, like at some point.
If a rim gets broken, like the person responsible could take partial ownership for it or something. Like, because I don't know, like I'm obviously, like you were saying, I'm willing to be like, yeah, I will pay however much money if I break this rim because I'm that sure that it's not going to happen.
Because the ideal is like you can just talk to management and like run up the chain, and as long as you're being respectful, I've heard that's an issue sometimes with maybe maybe like kind of younger people or just like people who aren't expecting it are just like, man, like, what do you mean I can't dunk? Like, and they're gonna kind of be mean to the staff members, and that point's like a different issue. Or maybe you're still trying to work out something with facilities, so you don't want to like speak up about it. But I feel like that's
Yeah.
just like totally kind of the wrong route to take. Like that's just like that's not a fighting path in a sense.
I agree with that. And I think that's when I like decided like when you put that in the group chat, I was like, oh wait, this might be like literally the perfect opportunity for me to reach out and talk about what happened.
There's actually another way, so maybe we can just wear a t-shirt like dunk is a sport and then go there to dunk, right? It's written on your t-shirt, so there's gonna be more and more people to think, oh, this is actually their sport. They're just they just love dunking, right?
So I was a bit sad that we couldn't go back there. But at the same time, I think it was a blessing in disguise because there's a chance to grow, chance to move on. And
I was very much a like, oh well, time to go to another court. It wasn't as big of a deal as it would be for me now. I was such a like happy, like optimistic kid, where it's like, okay, next court. I don't
Really?
get.
That's hilarious, man. Dude, when I like, for example, like when I got kicked out or what I've heard from these other guys, like it's like a crushing experience. One that I thought about was just like offering to like give them a hoop, like an adjustable hoop. But then they don't want to store the hoop.
And again, I feel like I noticed states like Utah that have like where dunk camp is in Utah, right? Like
Mhm.
dunking is so respected there. Same thing with Florida because we have such a rich history of dunking, right? I just feel like my home state, since we never had that, um, there's not many events that I can recall that's like dunking related or pro dunking related that happened in Oregon. So I'm like, yeah, I feel like that's kind of like another issue that I see with like people who get kicked out of gyms for dunking is like it's usually in places where people don't know what the pro dunking scene is, I guess.
Maybe Liam, maybe your documentary will help spread the word to help cure this lack of knowledge that some people apparently have.
So as far as what the solution is, to summarize that solution section, it's not super clear, to be honest. It's not an easy issue to solve. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be making this, right? You know, ideally you can talk to the staff and you can work something out. You can make the fair rules. Maybe they're not feeling that, and at that point you have to be a self-advocate, have the mentality you're gonna move on and find a solution with what's next. I think ownership is going to be big in the future for renting out spaces and dunkers, even potentially owning spaces one day. That's kind of the dream. But yeah, I mean, if anyone who's watching this has ideas, I'd love to hear them. Right now, you know, on my court, it's nice and sunny, not an issue. We're coming up on summer, but next winter, I don't know what I'm gonna do. There aren't really many answers where I live. Maybe for some people watching this, you live in like LA and you're like, what do you mean there's no courts to dunk at? You know, but for a lot of places in the world and people, I think this is gonna be an issue, especially if dunking is gonna grow. You know, we can't have people like going to courts and getting kicked out and having nowhere to dunk when it rains, right? But yeah, the future isn't all dark. I'm gonna own somewhere where I can dunk one day. I'm gonna be dunking till I'm 100 years old, and maybe I'll own multiple places. So there will be a solution one day. And anyways, thanks for watching. Let's kick with the dunker.